The massive warship of the Craxillian Empire drifted through the darkness of space like a predator searching for prey. Commander Zarlok stood on the bridge, his four arms clasped behind his scale back as he studied the holographic display. The blue-green planet below looked peaceful, almost fragile. Earth, the humans called it. Such primitive creatures, his second-in-command, Vexera, hissed through her mandibles. Look at their defenses. A few satellites, some space stations. They haven't even colonized their own moon properly. Zarlok's three eyes narrowed as he examined the tactical data. The Galactic Council's reports on humanity had been clear. These bipedal mammals were new to space travel, barely a century into their journey among the stars. They preferred diplomacy over conflict, always seeking peaceful solutions. Their military was small compared to other spacefaring races. The Council says they avoid battle at all costs, Zarlok rumbled. They sign treaties, make trade agreements, anything to prevent war. Fear makes them weak. The Craxillian Empire had conquered dozens of worlds. Their warrior culture demanded expansion, and Earth's resources would fuel their war machine for decades. The humans' reputation as pacifists made them perfect targets. Send the ultimatum, Zarlok commanded. Surrender Earth to the Empire or face annihilation. Give them one solar rotation to respond. The message was transmitted to every major city on Earth. In New York, London, Tokyo, and hundreds of other locations, screens lit up with the alien commander's fearsome visage. His translator conveyed the message in every human language simultaneously. People of Earth, I am Commander Zarlok of the Craxillian Empire. Your planet now belongs to us. You have 24 hours to surrender unconditionally. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species. In a secure bunker beneath the Pentagon, General Sarah Mitchell watched the transmission with her staff. The American military commander's face remained calm, but her eyes held a dangerous glint. They think we're afraid, Colonel James Rodriguez muttered beside her. All those years of trying to keep the peace, and they see weakness. General Mitchell stood slowly, her hands flat on the tactical table. Contact the president. Then reach out to our allies. If these Craxillians want to fight, they're about to learn why humans became the dominant species on a planet full of predators. Back on the Craxillian warship, Vexera reviewed Earth's history as provided by the Galactic Council. Strange, she clicked. Their records show they've avoided interstellar conflict, but their planetary history, it's nothing but war. Primitive tribal conflicts, Zarlok dismissed. Fighting with chemical projectiles and simple explosives, nothing compared to plasma weapons and shield technology. But Vexera continued reading, her translation software working through the human databases they'd accessed. World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Afghanistan. The list went on and on. Commander, perhaps we should study their military history more carefully. Enough, Zarlok interrupted. They fear us. Look, they haven't even responded to our ultimatum yet, probably debating how to word their surrender. On Earth, the response was anything but surrender. In underground command centers across America, missile silos opened. Nuclear submarines received new orders and changed course. Special Forces units began preparing equipment that the Galactic Council had never seen humans use in space. General Mitchell stood before a wall of screens showing military assets around the globe. The Craxillians made two mistakes, she said to her assembled commanders. First, they assumed our restraint was fear. Second, they threatened our home. She turned to face them fully. For 50 years, we've played nice with the galaxy. We've shown them our diplomatic face, our trade agreements, our cultural exchanges. We've never shown them what humans do when you threaten our children, our cities, our way of life. A young lieutenant approached with a tablet. General, all NATO forces report ready. Russia and China have agreed to the joint response. We're go for Operation Reminder. Mitchell nodded. Send one last message to the Craxillians. Tell them they have 1 hour to withdraw from our solar system. She paused. And, Lieutenant, make sure our response is broadcast to the entire Galactic Council. It's time they learned the truth about humanity. Commander Zarlok laughed when the human message arrived. The sound echoed through the bridge like grinding metal. 1 hour to withdraw? These mammals dare to threaten the Craxillian Empire? His tactical officer pulled up Earth's military assets on the main screen. Commander, their weapons are primitive but numerous. Nuclear fission warheads, kinetic bombardment platforms, chemical lasers. Nothing that can penetrate our shields, but nothing, Zarlok snarled. Begin the attack. Target their military installations first. Show them the price of defiance. The Craxillian fleet, 50 warships strong, moved into attack formation. Plasma cannons charged with the wine of building energy. On Earth, every military radar screen lit up like a Christmas tree. In her command bunker, General Mitchell watched the alien fleet's approach with an expression that would have terrified anyone who knew her. They're following standard galactic warfare protocols. Big ships, lots of shields, straight-line attack vectors. She turned to her aide. Execute swarm protocol. Let's show them how humans learn to fight. From hidden locations across Earth's surface, thousands of objects launched skyward. Not the missiles the Craxillians expected, but tiny, fast-moving drones. Each no bigger than a basketball, painted matte black, almost invisible against the void of space. Vexera frowned at her sensors. Commander, I'm reading insects? No, small mechanical devices. Thousands of them. They're not showing up properly on our targeting systems. Ignore them, Zarlok ordered. Focus on the planet. Fire main cannons. The Craxillian flagship's plasma cannon erupted in brilliant green light. The beam lanced toward Earth, aimed at North America's eastern seaboard. It never arrived. 300 miles above Earth's surface, the beam hit something invisible. Space itself seemed to shimmer and twist. The plasma energy scattered in all directions, dissipating harmlessly. What? Zarlok roared. Our sensors show nothing there. General Mitchell allowed herself a small smile. Metacloak satellites. Invisible to every sensor type the Galactic Council uses. We've had 50 years to study their technology, find its blind spots. She keyed her comm, Phase 2. Introduce them to the swarm. The tiny drones reached the Craxillian fleet. They didn't attack directly. Instead, they attached themselves to hull plates like metallic parasites. The alien shields, designed to stop energy weapons and large projectiles, didn't even register the micro-drones as threats. On the bridge of his flagship, Zarlok felt the first vibration. What does that sound? The drones activated simultaneously. Each one began eating through the hull using molecular acid, a weapon banned by the Galactic Council as too barbaric. Within seconds, tiny holes appeared across every ship in the Craxillian fleet. Hull breaches on all decks. Bagsara Shriaka. The atmosphere is venting. But that wasn't the worst part. As the holes opened, more drones poured through. Inside the ships, they released their payloads. Not explosives, but something far more terrifying to the Craxillians. Nanobots. Microscopic machines that began disassembling the ship's systems at the molecular level. Impossible. Zarlok screamed as his bridge consoles began literally dissolving. The Galactic Council outlawed nanotechnology centuries ago. In Washington, the President of the United States stood before a secure communication link to the Galactic Council. His face was grave, but determined. Members of the Council, you're witnessing why humanity chose the path of peace. Not from fear, but from wisdom. He gestured to the screen, showing the Craxillian fleet being consumed by nanobots. We are a species that invented nuclear weapons less than a century after learning to fly. We created biological weapons that could end all life on our planet. We developed AI that could have enslaved us and nanotechnology that could consume worlds. The president's voice hardened. We chose restraint. We chose diplomacy. Not because we feared war, but because we understood our own capacity for destruction. The Craxillians have forced us to remind the galaxy why Earth's predators learned to fear the hairless apes with tools. Back in space, Commander Zarlok watched in horror as his fleet disintegrated around him. Ships weren't being destroyed in the traditional sense. They were being unmade, converted into raw materials of the nanobots, then reformed into human constructions. Commander, Vexera pointed at the tactical display. The Earth forces, they're not just defending. Spacecraft are launching from hidden sites all over the planet. Hundreds of them. The human ships were unlike anything in the galactic database. Sleek, angular, and black as space itself. They moved wrong, too fast, changing direction in ways that should have liquefied their crews. General Mitchell opened a channel to the Craxillian flagship. Commander Zarlok, I am General Sarah Mitchell of the United States Space Force. You came here because you thought humans were afraid of battle. You were right. We are afraid. Afraid of what we become when pushed. Afraid of the darkness we keep leashed. You've cut that leash. The human warships moved through space like sharks through water. Captain Marcus Thompson commanded the lead vessel, USS Prometheus. His crew consisted of America's finest, veterans who had trained for this moment since humanity's first contact with alien life. Sir, Craxillian Ship 3 is trying to retreat, his weapons officer reported. Should we pursue? Thompson's voice was ice cold. No retreat. No surrender. That was their choice when they threatened Earth. Fighty de Hyuguns. The Prometheus's main weapon was deceptively simple. No exotic energy beams or plasma cannons. Just pure kinetic force. The railgun fired a tungsten rod the size of a telephone pole at 20% the speed of light. The Craxillian shields, designed for energy weapons, offered no more resistance than tissue paper. The tungsten rod punched through 3 Craxillian ships before its energy was spent. The aliens watched in horror as their vessels were simply deleted from existence, massive holes torn through their centers. On the Craxillian flagship, now missing half its systems to nanobot consumption, Commander Zarlok finally understood the magnitude of his error. These aren't the pacifists we were told about, he gasped, green blood dripping from wounds caused by explosive decompression. Vexera, managing to seal herself in an emergency suit, pulled up historical data she had tried to show him earlier. Commander, look, they're wars. They didn't avoid conflict because they were weak. They avoided it because she stopped reading further. By the 7 hells, they dropped nuclear weapons on their own cities to end wars. They used chemical weapons that killed millions of their own species. They have something called mutual assured destruction as a peacekeeping strategy. Through the failing view screen, they watched human fighters swarm the remaining Craxillian vessels. The small craft moved in perfect coordination, like a single organism with thousands of bodies. They didn't fight like any species in the known galaxy. They fought like predators who had evolved on a death world and turned technology into an extension of their killing instincts. General Mitchell's face appeared on every functioning screen in the Craxillian fleet. Behind her stood representatives from multiple Earth nations. Russians, Chinese, British, Japanese, Israeli, and more. All united in defense of their world. Commander Zarlok, she began, her tone conversational despite the carnage. Let me explain something about humans. We spent our entire evolution fighting everything. The weather, diseases, predators, starvation, and most of all, each other. We got so good at killing that we had to invent entire philosophies and religions just to stop ourselves from doing it. On the screen behind her, images flashed. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Dresden, Vietnam, the killing fields of Cambodia, Rwanda. We've seen what we're capable of. We've looked into the abyss of our own nature and been terrified by what looked back. So we tried to be better. We reached for the stars, hoping to leave our demons behind. Her expression hardened. But you brought them back. You threatened our children, our elders, our home. And now you're going to learn why every other species on Earth either learned to fear us or went extinct. The Prometheus moved toward the Craxillian flagship. Captain Thompson stood from his command chair, studying the dying alien vessel. General Mitchell, request permission to finish this. Negative, Captain. I want survivors. The galaxy needs witnesses. From Earth, a new signal broadcast across all galactic council frequencies. The president spoke again, but this time he wasn't alone. Leaders from every major Earth nation stood with him. To all member species of the Galactic Council, he began. Humanity hereby declares the Craxillian attack on Earth an act of war against not just one nation, but our entire species. In response, we are activating the Terra Protocol. Gasps echoed through council chambers across the galaxy. The Terra Protocol was something humans had submitted upon first contact, a document outlining what they would do if Earth itself was threatened. Most had dismissed it as the fantasies of a primitive species. The president continued. Effective immediately, any Craxillian ship, colony, or installation is a legitimate military target. We will pursue them to the edge of the galaxy if necessary. They wanted to see humanity at war. Their wish is granted. In deep space, hidden human installations activated. Ships that have been built in secret, using technologies the aliens thought humans couldn't possibly understand. Weapons that combined human innovation with reverse-engineered alien tech, creating hybrids that violated every assumption about how warfare worked. A young Craxillian officer managed to send out one last transmission before the nanobots consumed his communication array. Warning to all Craxillian forces. The humans, they're not what we thought. They're not afraid of battle. They're afraid of themselves. They locked their demons away and pretended to be peaceful. We broke the locks. May the seven hells have mercy on us, because the humans won't. The Galactic Council emergency session convened in chaos. Representatives from 100 worlds argued and shouted as they watched the tactical displays. The Craxillian fleet around Earth was gone. Not defeated, not retreating, gone. In less than 6 hours, humanity had erased one of the galaxy's most feared military forces. Ambassador Chunwei stood at the podium, representing humanity. Her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the panic around her. Distinguished members of the council, she began, her voice cutting through the noise. Humanity has been a member of this body for 50 Earth years. In that time, we have signed over 300 peace treaties, established trade with 80% of member worlds, and shared our art, music, and culture freely. She paused, letting her words sink in. We did this because we chose to be better than our history. But the Craxillians mistook our choice for weakness. They threatened to exterminate our species. And now, as your own sensors confirm, they're learning the cost of that mistake. The Altarian representative, a being of pure energy, pulsed with agitation. Ambassador Chun, your species' response has been disproportionate. The use of banned nanotechnology, kinetic weapons at relativistic speeds, and what our sensors indicate might be antimatter warheads, all technologies we developed and then chose not to use, Chun interrupted. Until now, every weapon we've deployed today has been in our arsenals for decades. We simply chose peace. The Craxillians took that choice away. On Earth, the war machine that humanity had kept dormant roared to full life. Factories that had produced consumer goods switched to military production. Citizens who had lived peaceful lives for generations remembered training they'd hoped never to use. In Texas, retired Marine Colonel Jack Harrison stood before a room full of volunteers. These weren't young recruits, but veterans from dozens of conflicts. Gray-haired, scarred, but with eyes that still held fire. Ladies and gentlemen, Harrison drawled, the aliens think they understand war because they've conquered some colonies and pushed around peaceful species. They're about to get educated by the folks who wrote the book on total war. Across the Pacific, Japanese engineers unveiled projects hidden beneath Mount Fuji. Massive mechs, inspired by their cultural fiction, but built with deadly purpose. In Russia, submarine pins opened to reveal vessels that could operate in space as easily as underwater. The British activated AI systems that had been deliberately constrained, now given permission to show their full capability. But it was the Americans who truly embraced the moment. General Mitchell stood in the Pentagon's war room, watching as humanity's hidden fleet assembled. Status report. Operation Nemesis is green across the board, General, her aide reported. The Ghost Fleet is fully operational. 17 carrier groups ready for hyperspace jump. The Israelis are sharing their quantum targeting systems. The Australians have volunteered their bioweapon research. Even the Swiss have opened their vaults. Mitchell nodded. And our special forces? Already deployed, ma'am. The Craxillians don't know it yet, but we've had teams on their homeworld for 3 years. They've been playing tourist, learning the culture, mapping infrastructure. They're just waiting for the ghost signal. In space, the survivors of the Craxillian fleet limped toward the hyperspace jump point. Commander Zarlok, barely alive in his emergency suit, watched his tactical display with growing dread. The human ships weren't pursuing. They were hurting. "Commander," Vexera whispered, her voice weak from oxygen deprivation. "The humans, they're letting us run." "What?" The answer came from an unexpected source. A human child's voice, broadcast on all Craxillian frequencies. "Hello, alien people. My name is Emma. I'm 8 years old. General Mitchell asked me to read you this message because she says you need to understand something." The bridge fell silent as the child continued. "My great-great-grandpa fought in something called World War II. He helped stop bad people who wanted to hurt everyone who was different. He used to tell me stories about how scary humans can be when they're protecting their families. He said the most important thing was to be kind and make friends instead of enemies." Emma's voice grew serious, as only a child's could. "You tried to hurt my mom and dad and my baby brother. You tried to hurt my friends and my teacher and my dog buster. That wasn't very nice. Now the grown-ups have to show you what happens when you're mean to people's families. I hope you learn to be nicer, but my grandpa says some people only learn the hard way." The transmission ended. In its place came coordinates. Not for Earth, but for the Craxillian homeworld. And a timer. Counting down. General Mitchell's voice replaced the child's. "Commander Zarlok, that was my granddaughter. You threatened her life. Her future. You made me explain to an 8-year-old why aliens wanted to kill her. For that alone, I should glass your entire world. But humans try to be better than our instincts. So you get one chance. Surrender unconditionally in the next 12 hours, or we bring the war to you. And, Commander, we've been holding back. This was just a warning shot." The timer reached 0. Across the Craxillian Empire, citizens woke to find human ships in their skies. Not attacking, just there, hanging above their cities like storm clouds. The message was clear: we can reach you anywhere. Commander Zarlok stood in chains before the Craxillian High Command. Half the military leadership was dead, victims of the failed Earth invasion. The survivors looked at him with a mixture of fear and rage. "You've doomed us all," Supreme General Krextor snarled. The humans were content to trade and talk. Now they're at our gates with weapons we don't understand, tactics that defy logic, and a rage that burns cold as space. On the main screen, General Mitchell appeared. She wasn't in her command center anymore. She stood on the bridge of a human warship, the blue marble of Earth visible through the viewports behind her. "Craxillian High Command," she began. "I'm going to tell you something that might save your species. The difference between humans and you isn't that we're better warriors. It's that we know when to stop. You see conquest as strength. We see it as failure. Every war we've fought taught us that victory without wisdom leads to more war." She gestured to someone off-screen. A hologram appeared showing human history. Wars, yes, but also their endings. Former enemies shaking hands. Rebuilt cities. Children playing where battles once raged. "We dropped atomic bombs on Japan," Mitchell continued. 70 years later, they were our closest allies. We fought the British for independence. Now we share intelligence and technology. We waged a Cold War with Russia that could have ended the world. Today, Russian officers serve on our ships. This is humanity's true strength. Not our weapons, but our ability to turn enemies into friends. The Craxillian leadership exchanged glances. This wasn't what they expected. Where was the demand for slaves? The territorial annexation? The humiliation of the defeated? Supreme General Krextor found his voice. What are your terms?" "Simple," Mitchell replied. "Complete military stand-down. Reparations to all species you've conquered. Your empire transforms into a cooperative federation. Human advisors will help with the transition. In exchange, we share our medical technology, help rebuild your economy, and invite you into the real galactic community, the one built on mutual benefit, not fear. And if we refuse, a younger general asked. Mitchell's expression didn't change. Then, we demonstrate why humanity's wars are studied by every military academy on Earth as examples of how devastating our species can be when we abandon restraint. Your choice. In Washington, the president addressed the world. My fellow humans, today we showed the galaxy both faces of our nature, the warrior and the peacemaker, the destroyer and the builder. We didn't evolve past our violent nature. We evolved to control it, channel it, choose when to unleash it, and when to restrain it. He looked directly at the camera. To our allies in the Galactic Council, know that we remain committed to peace. To those who would threaten Earth, remember this day. We're the species that split the atom and used it for both power and destruction. We mapped our own genome and could have created super soldiers, but chose to cure diseases instead. We built AI that could have enslaved us, but made them our partners. Every day, we choose to be better than our darkest impulses. Don't make us choose otherwise. Back on the Craxillian homeworld, something unprecedented happened. One by one, the Craxillian generals knelt, not in defeat, but in understanding. They had encountered something more terrifying than any weapon, a species that could destroy them utterly, but chose to offer friendship instead. Commander Zarlok, the architect of the failed invasion, spoke from his knees. We accept, not from fear of your weapons, but from respect. You could end us, but you offer us a future. This is strength we didn't understand. General Mitchell smiled for the first time since the crisis began. Welcome to the real galactic community, Commander. The one where former enemies become tomorrow's allies. Trust me, it's much more profitable than conquest. 6 months later, human and Craxillian engineers worked side by side on a joint space station. The Craxillian Empire had transformed into the Craxillian Federation, with former conquered worlds now voluntary members. Human medical technology had eliminated diseases that had plagued them for centuries. Their economy boomed with fair trade, replacing exploitation. Ambassador Chunwei stood before the Galactic Council one final time regarding the crisis. Let the record show that humanity's response to unprovoked aggression was swift, decisive, and ultimately merciful. We hope this serves as both a deterrent to future aggressors and an invitation to peaceful coexistence. She paused, looking at each representative. We are not a warrior species trying to be peaceful. We are a peaceful species that knows how to war. There's a difference. We choose diplomacy not from weakness, but from wisdom. We offer trade not from need, but from mutual benefit. And we extend friendship not from fear, but from hope. The Craxillians learned this lesson. We hope the rest of the galaxy was taking notes. In the depths of space, human and alien ships flew together. The children of Earth had shown the galaxy their true nature, not as conquerors or pacifists, but as something far more complex, a species that had looked into the abyss of their own violence and chose to build bridges over it instead of homes within it. The galaxy would never again mistake human restraint for weakness. And, perhaps more importantly, humanity had reminded itself why they chose the hard path of peace over the easy path of war. Not because they couldn't win, but because they understood that true victory meant not having to fight at all.